All right, I'm here with Marinus Zyta. Zita? How do you pronounce it, Marinus?
You got it, Zyta. I get all kinds of variations, but I'm good. I
You should,
respond to
you should
all.
see people mango Fournier. Well, Marinus, what I know of you, you have started a podcast, Stories of 1812, but maybe first off, maybe explain a little bit about who you are. What's your background?
Well, like most people, that are involved in the history of the War of 1812, I have a day job and had a day job, and I worked as a corporate management consultant. And the companies I work for, you would know in downtown Toronto. I retired about 10 years ago, and I really wanted to take up my passion for history and, in particular, local history, because a lot of the individuals that I'm looking at are, related in some way to the Niagara area where I live.
And so you, I believe, live in Niagara on the Lake, which is certainly
Correct.
well
Yes.
grounded in War of 1812 history. Is that where you're originally from, or is that where you settled
Well, no,
post-retirement?
my father made the decision to immigrate from Holland, of all places. But I grew up essentially in the area. I grew up in St. Catharines, went to high school, went to Brock, and then spent some years away. But I would always spend a lot of time at Queenston Heights looking up at that monument, wondering what it was about. So,
Oh, excellent. All right, and then maybe you can touch a little bit more why your interest in the War of 1812.
well, it's more the era, it's kind of interesting because we watch a lot of British dramas and we're very interested in that period, the Victorian period. Um, it was a time for, the British Empire. Now, obviously, a lot of people have, criticisms of that period, but the British went all over the world, and they opened up markets and trade and relationships. And, the people of that time, you can watch dramas like Belgravia, and that'll tell you all about, the Battle of Waterloo, etc. It's just a very interesting period in general. And then, I really think that the War of 1812 was a formative time for Canada. It's when Canada found, its nationhood. I know officially it was 1867, but I really think there's something in that time that really set the stage for Canada.
And then how did this interest convert into creating a podcast?
You know, uh, just fortunate circumstances. I already, I had the interest. I started reading maybe 6, 7 years ago, reading intensively, mostly about, the period here in this area. And, one thing led to another. I came into contact with a group in Niagara Falls and developed the idea, and they had a podcast studio. And so I said, well, what do you think? And we threw it together, my producer and I, Jim Valen. And, we started calling around. I put out feelers here, there. And next thing you know, Donald Graves sends me an email and says he wants to be on. And Donald Hickey sends me an email, says he wants to be on. So what do you do? you know? So it's a victim of its own success in some ways.
Yeah, it's interesting when we found, a history symposium. Historians are remarkably giving of their time and their expertise. When it was still Twitter and less of the controversial place it is now, he loved engaging with some prominent authors and historians, and they would freely answer, and share some of their research or point people in the direction of where they needed help. So it's quite remarkable. So it's great that you channeled some of that with your podcast. I'm not surprised to hear of Don
Mhm.
Graves' reaction. So what are you hoping to achieve with the podcast?
Well, a couple of things, really. I don't think that this, first of all, the podcast is a new medium. Everybody's doing a podcast. King Charles is apparently doing a podcast. So it's a new medium and it's long form. So it's not like, we're all used to the 10-second clip, and you've got to summarize what you say in a 10-second clip. You have, we do 35 minutes roughly, and you have 35 minutes. We pick a, a topic, mostly about an individual, and you have that 35 minutes to really elaborate and really mine the topic. And I think it's the new generation more than the old school guys like me who read books. The millennials are on their phones. You can pick this up on your phone on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. And I really would like two things done. One is I want these guys, and they're in the older demographic. A lot of these guys are in the older demographic. We now have them recorded. It's not going to go away. And I would like really the millennial generation. I call it millennials. I think I've lost track. I think it's Z now or something, right? Or
Yeah.
Z. Anyway, I would really like that generation to know what happened during this period about the people and the fact that it was a formative time for Canada, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with podcasts is the variety of places and fashions it's consumed. Commuters on a subway or a train, or commuters driving, into work. I listen on as I do my morning walk. There's a variety of podcasts I follow. So interesting. And then, we're recording this towards the end of August 2025. The video will probably be around for quite a while after this recording, but um, to date, who are some of the notable historians you have had on?
Well, we've mentioned a few. Um, you know, we've done a whole bunch of recording. So when people watch this, I don't know how many of Don Graves are going to be up, but we have one up from Donald Graves, Donald Hickey. We also have a number in the can for both of those people. We've done Wesley Turner, who's written a number of books, particularly on Isaac Brock. Um, we have we have the great we have had, and it's up the great. I don't know how many greats to say. She says she's the fifth generation granddaughter of Laura Secord, and she's president of the Friends of Laura Secord. Um, there's another fellow named James Tyler Robertson who not many people know. I think people in the War of 1812 community know who this guy is. Bishop John Strawn of Toronto, who berated the Americans, and I think even went after some soldiers in York in 1813 when the Americans invaded York. He's a very colorful character. So I'm bringing on people that really know their subjects, generally speaking, professors, authors, scholars.
Excellent. So you had mentioned your target length is about 35 minutes, and what's your cadence for publishing new episodes?
So, yes, indeed. The advice we got when we started the podcast was, you need enough time to explore it, but you shouldn't overdo it. And I know they're longer podcasts and people go on and on, but we figured around 35 minutes and it's worked out very, very well. We're going to do a first season of 10 episodes. We have another 10 in the can, so to speak, and then we'll be recording into the fall. There are many folks that we want to get on. We like having people in the studio in Niagara Falls, so it can be difficult because people aren't always around, and we don't have the budget to fly them in. But generally speaking, weekly on Tuesday, and everything is available through the website, but basically YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, I've listened to it on my iPhone, so I find it listed there. All right, and I think the website's a good driver. People can find their format. I think Audible too, right? It's that's
Well,
the
well, this is, I've had to learn all of this. So I put it up on Spotify, and then Spotify tells you it'll propagate it. So if you're seeing it on Audible, then Spotify has done its job.
yeah, and there you
Yeah.
go. So they're sort of act like a distributor of the content, I guess.
Yeah.
What future plans do you have for the podcast? Maybe you can give us a teaser. Topics, speakers, where do you hope to take it?
Well, we want to kind of probe a little bit more. There's some stuff we have in the can. So, for example, we had three, two aforementioned plus Ron Dale. So I was Donald Hickey, Donald Graves, and Ronald Dale. I think most people know who Ronald J. Dale is, local historian on the War of 1812. And we had them do a panel discussion at the Naudle Museum this summer. And that has been filmed, and that's being edited as we speak. And we want to offer that in a special way. We have, and again, this is stuff in the can. We have Donald Graves talking for a minute and a half on very specialized subjects. We want to offer that. We might offer that only to members, but we'll see how we do it. There's lots more to do. There are American guests that want to come on. The logistics of that is somewhat difficult. I'm in touch with people in the UK, Jonathan Riley, who's written a book on Brock, and Andrew Lambert, I think, who's done a whole story of the naval war. So all of these are, it's a very rich topic. I think you know that yourself, you know?
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
mentioning the people I have utilized. We've had Andrew as a keynote with Don Hickey, I think, when we did the conference in Hamilton in 2013.
Oh, right.
Jonathan Riley, I know very well. Have
He's a,
visited with
he
him
is,
in Wales and when he's traveled to Canada. So yeah.
he's a professional soldier. I think he's still in the armed forces.
No, he's retired. I
Oh, he's
think
retired.
it's
Okay.
been a while since I talked to him. I know he was
Yeah.
consulting with some Middle East countries around, security and things of that nature. So,
What I find is the more voice, I want multiple voices, and I think you follow the same approach, you know, and then people will retain and focus in what they find interesting.
yeah. And then if someone has a passion, a topic that they want to share with you, they think they're a candidate for your podcast, how do they get a hold of you?
So two ways, but the main way is on the website www.storiesof1812.com,
I'll
and
put that in
you,
the video
sure.
description as well. So yeah.
There's Let's Connect. You can fill in a form. Or if you want to email me directly, stories of 1812 at gmail.com.
Perfect. All right. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
I'm, we're just starting out, Tom, and we're always open to ideas, and comments, so, we've mentioned a couple of that we've done, and if you feel that we've not either given an individual, a good shake, or if we need to look at him in another way, another perspective, then please let us know.
All right. And then I've heard so many podcasters say this. So if you're listening to it, enjoy it, then share the word. Give it a review on whatever platform that helps the
Please.
algorithm make it available to more people. We will link to the podcast from our YouTube video, and then I will add you to our list of friends on our channel as well too. So we'll link to your YouTube channel. So,
Thank you very much.
well, thank you.
I think there was a time when you started as well, right? We all have to start. So,
Yeah, we're well, really with the onset of COVID, right? So
mm,
for us, became apparent. We actually had an annual conference that was poorly attended because I think that's just when the world was becoming aware that something was out there and people
yeah,
were starting to stay home and then the world shut down a couple weeks later. So then we figured out, all right, the next year we're in the throes of it and we had to figure out how we were going to keep it going. We wanted to find a way to do it online and
Hmm.
also to do that with a budget of pretty much zero. So that's we discovered, you know,
I hear you.
we could live stream through Zoom to a
Yeah,
YouTube channel. So we set that up and yeah, as we're recording, I don't know how we've attracted all these people. We got like 2,000 subscribers, over
wow.
150,000 views,
Mm.
and we're one of the lightweights in the content creator world, but we're proud of what we achieved, and we'll just keep grinding away. So
Well, congratulations. The
we'll
more
get
we
you there
talk about
too.
it, I think that the chances of it getting remembered are greater.
Well, what I like about utilizing the YouTube, it's preserved there forever, right? So
Yes.
it becomes quite an interesting archive. So all right, well, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording here, and we'll get this posted within the next day or two.
Thank you.